Hey, fellow tennis nerds, I hope all is well. This guest needs no further introduction. You have probably seen his YouTube channel. It's the fastest rising star in the tennis. He has, let people follow his journey to his first ATP point, which he has just gotten. So big congrats to Felix Mischker, who's joining me today to talk about his upcoming journey to become a top 1,000 player. Hey, Felix.
Hey Jonas, how you doing? Thank you first of all for having me on. Super excited. I've seen a couple of your pods with Karu and some of the other guys. So yeah, excited to have a chat. I mean, witnessing your intro live is really getting me excited to to go create some content. Actually, I'm getting excited and also talk tennis, which is what we're here to do. So yeah, happy to get going and get started.
Yeah, you're quite a good content creator, I must say. You really have nailed the YouTube game. I mean, you're obviously a very good tennis player, but you also have you been following like Mr. Beast, or like you have a really good style of editing and you do most of your editing yourself, right?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to kind of the YouTube creation, I've been growing up like around YouTube my whole life. So watching all of these channels like the Sidemen in the UK, KSI, all of these guys kind of coming up has literally been my childhood. So kind of creating videos is really like almost a dream, and that style of kind of editing and stuff is something I've just picked up video on video, just try and try and work more based on kind of the algorithm and how videos should be made to reach the biggest amount of people, I think, whilst also making them entertaining enough and informative enough for people to still understand kind of what's going on. I think there's quite a fine line there, and it's really hard with tennis, I have to say. It's really tough when you're in a sport, as you know, which is so uncontrollable. You're playing tennis in a match. The only thing you have control of is yourself, your own emotions, and maybe your serve. But everything else is you never know what's going to happen. So a lot of the time, you're filming, you have one thing in mind, and the complete opposite thing happens. So it's really just being able to adapt and try and work with kind of what we've got. And there's been a lot of videos that I haven't been able to put out just because they haven't pieced out the way that we wanted. So, but yeah, it's something I definitely I'm working on consciously to kind of improve as a business model as well.
Yeah, I think like being adaptable is one of the key things of being a tennis player as well. Like YouTuber, but also tennis player. You're always adapting to courts, surfaces, opponents, balls, everything. Now you're in Moratoglu, you told me to train, but you got your point in Tunisia under like very hot conditions, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was really hot. It was boiling, 46 degrees on one of the days. So yeah, it was really toasty, but I managed to get through 3 long qualies matches. Was pretty gassed about that, and then obviously just first round main draw, got a qualifier. Good opportunity. I managed to seize the chance in the final week that I was there as well. So yes, it was more of one of those things where I kind of knew if I can just maintain and raise my level of tennis, then it was going to be something that's gonna come, and it's going to be one of those milestones. I didn't want to make it too big and too, how do you say, too important, because it's only one step in the road, and there's a lot of careers where people get points, go up to like 300 and then lose all their points, and it's not something that's like an achievement where it's like you put it on your wall like a YouTube subscriber plaque, done, completed it. So I think that it's just part of the journey, and I'm looking forward to kind of working to carry on and hopefully rise the ranks.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. And because you really seem ambitious and you seem to have the right mindset. I think you're very positive in a way that it's kind of contagious, right? You try to have that kind of contagious positivity always. Were you always like that? Were you always kind of that frame of mind for tennis, for other stuff?
I'd like to say so. In a sense, I've been quite, I'm always that guy in the friend group that's kind of pumping everyone up. That's just kind of, the way I am kind of thing. And I think that it's really good sometimes. And sometimes it can be, have to contain it a little bit because, when you're filming content and you're playing tennis at the same time, that can sometimes be a problem. I remember when I played against Karu, a little inside story, when we filmed, he was at Wimbledon. And he came along. We wanted to, play some points, and obviously he's a much better player than I am at the moment. So I was a bit nervous. And Marcus Giron came to watch with some of his friends behind the court. I'm like, oh my god, this is so much pressure. So we ended up playing like a short set. In the first set, he absolutely destroyed me, 4-0. I was like, this is not good. But the problem was that I was kind of focusing a lot on the content. I was focusing on saying some things, making a joke here or there. Okay, thinking, is the video going to come out right? Is this how I want to do it? What questions am I going to ask him? And then the second set, we kind of just said, look, let's just play tennis, like forget anything else. And then I won that set 4-3, and it was a bit more entertaining and better. So, obviously there's that's for YouTube, but like you said, it's like you have to be able to separate the two, and I think that positivity is good when it's controlled. But we all have bad days, so it's just learning to kind of get over that when you've got so many different things kind of going on. Like, as you know, with the YouTube, it can become quite a lot sometimes.
Do you sometimes struggle with that? Like you're recording for YouTube as well as playing a serious match in many cases. I mean, sometimes when you're training, I think it must be easier, but when you're playing a match, can you just block that away that it's actually a camera there behind you?
It's funny you say that because it's actually the opposite for me. I actually find it's harder in training than in matches, because in matches I've played so many matches, maybe 1,000 matches before having started the series where it wasn't filmed. So it's kind of like I know how to play, I know what the feeling should be. I'm not really thinking about it. All I want to do is get on the court and win. Whereas in training, you're thinking, okay, how like am I playing good? Am I looking good? Is this going to be good in the edit? How am I? And I'm not really. This isn't really something I'm always thinking about. So don't get me wrong. It's not like it's interfering with my training a lot. But just a few sessions, sometimes when I'm playing bad or when there's a camera on it, there's a little bit more added pressure in training. When usually in training, it's like you should be a lot more relaxed. So yeah, I find that I can kind of raise to the pressure in the matches. With a camera or not, I don't really mind it.
Do you think your opponents, like, how did they react to you now that you're pretty famous? Like, do they want to play better because they're on camera? Do they say, no, I don't want a camera? Or like, do they get nervous because people are watching them, right?
It's a good question. I haven't actually asked too many of the guys that I've played. I think that most of them obviously say kind of yes, they don't mind. I think that probably they don't want to cause any kind of problems, and most of them don't mind being on camera. I think sometimes the only thing that I've seen in other matches, which doesn't really happen to me, is people tanking. Nobody tanks against me, and I think that one of the reasons maybe is because they're on camera. They know, okay, they've got to be on the best behavior. They got to be kind of focusing, because when someone else is going through all of the content, I kind of choose what to show. Like if they break their racket and I make a big deal about it to hundreds of thousands of people, that makes them look terrible. And just set the record straight, I would never do that. I even when someone throws a racket or gets angry, I don't put any of that in the video, because that's not my place to judge them for what they're doing. I try and just keep it to the tennis. And maybe if I have an outburst, then I'm going to show that if that's part of the video. But yeah, that's the only thing. But I think most of the people are quite happy to be on video. I happily send the video of the footage over to them so they can have a look at the match, because that's quite valuable to go through it as well. Something I find valuable as well. But yeah, I mean, yeah, hopefully some more people start tanking my matches against me. Maybe I should just kind of only bring the camera to some matches, and then they're expecting it, and then they're like, what a shame, and But yeah, other than that, not really a problem.
Yeah, that would be an interesting experiment to see if, like, oh, you're not filming today, and when I want to be on camera,
Yeah.
so that would be really funny actually to see their reaction, because do you think like having your YouTube channel makes it more relaxing for you to be able to focus, or to play tennis, because you have your backup as a YouTuber? You're already a good YouTuber, right? You have a good channel. If tennis doesn't work out, you can do other things as a YouTuber, but with your skills, right? Do you think that helps you in a way, or do you think that it's too much of a distraction sometimes, that you actually have to also edit videos, think about the video and everything?
Yeah, I mean, I have quite big plans when it comes to being like think of it like as a kind of a business, like growing the business and branching out. I see a lot of, YouTubers create other channels and create other businesses along with what they're doing. So I'm kind of quite inspired by that kind of route of what people are doing. So, that side of me really enjoys that. So I definitely think it's something that, I can explore, after maybe playing tennis. So yeah, like you said, it's a good backup option. A lot of guys in golf, like Rick Shields, some of those golf channels that are quite big, that's what they're doing. They've kind of gone pro, and now they create some cool content. So if that opportunity or that avenue ever decides to happen, then I think it would be a great opportunity. But I think that I just love tennis like so much at the moment, and just playing it and trying to rise the ranks and just improve as a player. I'm kind of hooked on that whole training and working, which is a great thing. So I'm not trying to think too much about. Sometimes, when you're working on something, as when you're working on a video or a project, you get really immersed in it. and you can kind of lose track of some of the other things that are important. And I think sometimes, when you're working or you have these big aspirations, or you're talking to agents, you're talking to editors and stuff like that, then it can sometimes draw the focus away from maybe what I actually want right now. And I think what I really want right now is to just improve as a tennis player, keep playing tournaments, keep funding my dream, and keep working to kind of get to a level where I'm really pushing play some big tournaments, which is my goal. So that's kind of how I feel right now.
Is it easy to get bogged down into statistics? You've had this really meteoric rise now, and it must be kind of like you want to go in and check the YouTube analytics like every 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's kind of it's difficult because as YouTube analytics go up and down. It's the same for everyone, and it's relative to everyone. Mr. Beast or a really big tennis TV, they're going to get loads of views. They're going to have really high numbers, and then you can compare yourself to them, and then you can feel bad about it or what you're doing, or you haven't posted in a week because you've been really stressed, and you almost kind of have that self-doubt in a way that you are your numbers, which is just totally not true. At the end of the day, you're just going to put out the best content possible and try and just keep it going, keep the snowball rolling kind of analogy. And I think that, if you're really passionate about what you're doing and you enjoy doing it, then you should just keep doing it, kind of no matter the views. Essentially, obviously, if it's a matter of whether you can afford to do it or not, that's the hardest part with all YouTubers, is that profitability area. The same with tennis. You have that profitability line where you can afford to carry on doing. You're breaking even, making enough of a profit for it to make sense. And that's kind of what everyone's dream is to be able to do, is to get to that point and then build on that. And I think that with tennis, a lot of people have been talking financials lately. The ATP Tour brought out that scheme, a lot of different mixed opinions on that. So I think that with tennis, it's in a difficult spot financially, and I think that a lot of players who are very, very, very talented are not able to make nearly enough money, or even stopping and becoming a coach, just because it's not financially feasible. And I think with YouTubers, it's kind of the same, that a lot of talented people just can't, they're doing it as their second job, and then they run out of steam, basically. So, that's tough.
In your last video, you actually talked really detailed about like the amount of money you put into your game, and I think that was pretty, a very good overview for people who are not like aware of how difficult financially it is to be a tennis professional. I mean,
Yeah.
thankfully you have your YouTube channel and sponsors and so on, but for many pros they don't have that. And what do you feel like? Is that like a stressful thing about being a tennis player in general? Like the financial system seems quite bad. I mean, it's pretty clear that something is wrong, and they're trying small fixes, and we'll see if it's not really, enough in my feeling, but maybe it's a step in the right direction. Who knows, But what was your feeling as a player?
Yeah, I mean, look, the most neglected level of players is the ITF Futures, right? It's always branded in marketing as the lowest level of professional tennis. Don't get me wrong, it is. There's nothing lower professionally. But the way that it's kind of said, first of all, is just completely wrong. You're getting guys in these tournaments who are 250 in the world. Next week, I'm playing a 25K, and there are, I think, 15 players inside 350 in the world. Seed number one, Jules Marie, also has a YouTube channel, 248 in the world, for an event where the prize money is pretty atrocious. I mean, the amount of prize money the ITF is giving out right now, they haven't changed it for years. They haven't even changed it to increase with inflation. They haven't even done that. And I think it's just totally, you're getting players at these futures events, like in Tunisia, for example, staying at an Airbnb miles away just to try and save on costs. You're getting people going crazy 30-hour layover flights with really like cheap airlines at the end of the day, which is very uncomfortable. It's if you're doing long haul, and a lot of these people, that it's so difficult to be able to make ends meet, and that's just to try and break even, in a way. And I'll give you an example. My most successful week prize money wise, in ITF was that week where I got my first ATP point, a $25,000 event, which is the total prize money for the whole event. I made second round of singles and second round of doubles, so quarterfinal of doubles, second round of singles. I made about $700, and after tax was about $560, which is about 500 British pounds, give or take. And my hotel room for the night was about €100 a night. So if I'm there for 7 days, I'm making €200 loss for winning a round in singles and a round in doubles. So it's just not feasible to even break even, and that's a good week, especially the guys in qualies. You're in a whole year, you may be doing that 2-3 times. So it's really tough for those guys at the lower level, and I'm hoping that the ITF can kind of to do something, but I just don't think tennis is in the right place right now where the big powers that be ATP, ITF are actually going to kind of come together, because they all make their money from the Grand Slams, the big events, and they have their paydays. But I feel like they're not just giving back to the players nearly enough. There was a video I watched the other day. You may have watched it as well, basically saying like Alcaraz from prize money was like the 130th highest paying guy in the NBA, if he would be in the NBA. 130th, and he's the world number one. That's just insane. Like, how can we be playing a sport where that's possible? And I think that the top guys, they're the ones that obviously the ATP are trying to target to pay more money. But the guys at the lower levels are the guys suffering the most, because those guys, Alcaraz is going to be fine no matter what. Obviously, it's nice to have a few more million, but the guys at the ITF level, they can't even play the sport, and that's what's tough.
Yeah, and I think that harms the sport, because you don't have like reasonable, a reasonable life on that level, which, as you said, I think it was a good point you made, because people talk sometimes, oh, you're playing Challenger, you're playing ITF, and Futures, and then it sounds like Futures is a bad thing, but to be successful in Futures, even to go through qualies, is an incredible amount of tennis skill you need to have. Like, you need to be athletically super fit, be able to, play long matches in heat and, whatever conditions, maybe some shit balls or bad court or whatever. So I don't think people really sometimes understand the kind of level you need to be just to be able to compete on that level. And that's the the third tier of pro. And then you get up. But even if you have some success, that maybe some success in some challenges, it's still quite difficult to keep that going. It's like a tough life. I mean, people who do it, they love it. They love tennis. That's the only reason, really.
Yeah.
Because they're probably easier things to make money from, right?
100%. I mean, it's a brutal sport in the qualifying of Futures. And yeah, every time someone says like the lowest level, I just kind of cringe a little bit. That's like, most of the people that are saying it's the lowest level are the guys that, if they actually picked up a racket and went there, would lose a 6-love, 6-love. They can't, they can't kind of really understand that. And I get why they say it, because it makes sense. But I think that if Futures tournaments were, and that, for that level, ATP Challenger events were paid more money, the players were paid more, they put a bit more care into the live streaming the matches, giving the matches to the players in 4K so that they can post on their socials, maybe having a photographer at each event so the players can, for free, take their pictures and post them on Instagram, promoting the event maybe. The event maybe hires a social media team or a person, especially at events where there's multiple weeks in one place, to help promote it. Then you're going to have such a better atmosphere and environment, and really give a meaning to professional tennis, because it is professional tennis. And I think that, you look at other sports, even college level, like America, like college tennis is huge in the tennis world, of course. But then you look at other sports, and American football is huge in college sports. Basketball, they're selling out 30,000, 50,000 seat stadiums at the college level. So I think there's definitely a way to go with tennis, and whether that's going to eventually happen remains to be seen. But there just has to be a lot better cohesion with the top people, or the big like ATP, ITF to WTA to be able to make that happen, and to start finding ways of being a little bit out there, a little bit unique to try and help the players a little bit. Because even with the ITF, I was talking to a player who's been on the ITF circuit for many years now, and the ITF signed contracts with companies for betting, to allow betting on the ITF matches. And we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars that they've signed. And the players obviously see nothing of that. They're playing and getting betted on, and getting hate and death threats. I've seen so many players like posting on their stories. Thankfully, I haven't got too many of those. But basically, a lot of players getting absolutely harassed, basically. And they're getting literally peanuts for turning up and playing a first round match, like $50 in some cases, which is nothing. Like when you look at the massive expenses that they have to go through.
Yeah, no, and it's also like the traveling is quite, taxing on tennis players because like if you play for a football team, you go in a bus and you go together, and it's all paid by the club.
Yeah,
You have to pay everything yourself and be a small business entrepreneur to be a singles tennis player. Like it's a quite difficult situation. You have to make sure is I mean most people book their own flights, like unless you're
yeah,
maybe top 100, right? So it's a tricky situation, and like you say, I think one of the issues is that there's X amount of organizations for one sport. So ATP, ITF, WTA, and then the slams have their own organizations, which seems a bit strange. And then I think there seems to be an issue where the tournament directors are, or like the tournament organizations are generally taking the biggest chunk of the cake and maybe giving some appearance fee to the top pros, but then the people who are playing on the lower levels, they don't get it really anything.
yeah.
Which you need to create like a sustainable life also for kind of challengers, futures, and so on.
Yeah, I think it's just building the sport. There's no kind of thought behind actually growing what they have, and I know that they've increased the challenge amount of events in the challenges and the prize money. So it's a slow process, but I definitely think there's so much room for improvement, not only when it comes to just ITF and challengers, but just the whole like the social media world of stuff is just having worked in social media now for 2 years properly, like knowing and talking to a lot of brands and tournaments. It's just so close-minded. I'm just going to call it out. It's so close-minded. We were actually contacted by the ATP. The guy who does player relations at the ATP contacted us with two of the marketing teams and said, "Look, guys, we want to do some really cool content at Queens and Wimbledon." And so me and my dad, who works kind of with me on the YouTube channel and stuff, says, "This is great. Finally some appreciation to create some really cool content. In some other sports, you're seeing some YouTubers joining kind of the NFL Combine or doing some really cool stuff, which is not only promoting the sport, it's promoting, people watching the actual event. And I think that what basically happened is when we went to the tournament director of Queens and pitched some of the ideas, there was no chance. They were like, we need proof that it's going to work. We need, we're not sure, whether some of the pros would allow it. And these aren't crazy ideas. These are like, let's say Queen Centre Court. And one of the ideas was, let me go with my brother. You don't even need to get a pro on the other side. Let's just hit on the centre court for 30 minutes when nobody else is there and film a tiebreak tens video and just say, okay, I played on centre court at Queens. And you basically maybe talk a bit about the tournament. No, nothing. They gave back nothing. And nothing obviously came of the one at Wimbledon either. And all of my ideas were too crazy from that sense because they're all looking for the classic, hey guys, I'm at the tournament. This is my vlog of what's happening. This is where the players train. This is what happens here. This is what happens here, which at the end of the day, anyone that goes to the event has access to as well. So there's nothing special really, actually there. And it kind of cringes me out in a way because there's so much opportunity at these events and so many cool things that can be done to, even for players to promote their social media profiles. You get guys like inside top 100. I was talking to Jack Draper the other day, and he's not even on 100,000 followers, and he's top 50 at like 21 years old. So it's crazy. Like these guys like Ben Shelton, you've seen his name everywhere, but he doesn't have loads of followers compared to other sports. So I think there's so much more that can be done to really just promote these events and the players a lot better, which will then incur more revenue for the actual players.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, having worked in marketing for like 20 years, like as marketing director and so on, I have been shocked traveling around to different ATP events, and I haven't seen the WTA, so I can't really comment. I haven't been live to WTA events, but to Masters and stuff, that's also WTA. But I'm usually shocked like how traditional and like you said, close-minded. I'm not like I've also gone down a road to say, hey, maybe because I know some tournament directors, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that. It's all depending on the person, but
Yeah,
generally it's always kind of a no, right? It's like they have this traditional mindset, like especially probably in Queens and Wimbledon, which is very traditional, that it's like, our first instinct is to go no, and then you have to do 60 things to convince, and probably it's going to be a no anyway.
yeah,
Where from a marketing point of view, you need to tap into the engagement, of people watching. So like if, for example, like you have marketable pros, Alcaraz, Shelton, you mentioned a bunch of, and yourself, have building a huge following. You need to use that leverage. There's leverage, right?
yeah.
But it seems like they mainly stick around top 10 and try to work with that, and that's a little bit like, it gets pretty stale. It's not the most exciting stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's a shame.
Yeah, I was talking to the ATP guys as well. So when they have their channel and they have those videos where they're sitting down all the time, so that's filmed on their media days at the tournaments. And I guess obviously it's partly the players as well not wanting to do too much extra outside of what they have to do. But I really think that there's so much opportunity there to create some really cool content, like bringing different YouTubers in, having breaking that wall between pros and YouTubers, as if like a guy who's a number 100 in the world, or even like a top 50 player in the world. They put them kind of on a massive pedestal that I guess they're playing in the tournament. 100% respect. You're an unbelievable tennis player. But from a social media perspective, why not put you on a video with this guy on his channel, which will get hundreds of thousands of views because you will both pull the views. It's a kind of a, you'll pull for your name and that guy will create the video. It'll be really cool. And then you promote the event and you promote yourselves, and it takes 30 minutes of your time. And, that's kind of been my pitch to try and, talk with a lot of players. We're kind of slowly breaking down the walls. I think the bigger you get, the more, power you have in the world, unfortunately. You just have to kind of be given a chance. And I think that hopefully, just proving the concept is always something that's important. So, I think hopefully in the future that will then begin to change as some of the social media managers, some of the brands are getting younger. You can definitely tell people commenting on YouTube, like as ATP Tour commented on my video the other day, like stuff like that is like you can see that the people running those accounts are getting younger, watching other YouTubers, and even like Sky Sports, the guy that works the tennis because they bought the rights for next year. Watching my videos says, hey, come be on Sky Sports News. So I've done that twice now, and they're looking to
Cool.
do more stuff with them next year. So I think that's really exciting that's going to happen more. It's just whether that's going to be something that comes sooner rather than later.
Yeah, tennis is a very traditional sport, as we said, and it's you really feel it. But it will get younger. Things will happen, and things will have to happen, like at some point. I mean, you're at the Mouratoglou Academy. He's the guy behind the UTS. What do you think about like changing rules or adding new formats like that, to the mix? Or what's your opinion?
I mean, first of all, I think that the UTS is pretty unique. I think that it's a different spin on tennis, and I'm not 100% sure whether I'm a massive fan of it, in the sense that I love what they're trying to do and what they're doing in a sense. But I think, not to throw shade, I think they could do a little bit better in a way. I think that what they're doing is kind of the same thing as the ATP Tour, but just dressing it up in kind of a few fancy like new rules and stuff. It's kind of the same thing, players playing against each other, same kind of format in a way, like I know the quarters and stuff. But I think it's a different way to view the sport in a way, and that's sometimes interesting to get the perspective of what the majority thinks, because at the end of the day, it's what the people think. I don't think that there should be a world where the timing system comes into tennis. I think the traditional scoring system is good. The fact that you never know whether a match is going to be 45 minutes or 4 hours and 45 minutes is intriguing in a way between big players. But yeah, there are definitely a few rules which I think will, how do I say this? They won't affect 90% of the people that watch tennis, in the sense that they won't care whether it's the net cord's removed or the, I don't know what it is, the sudden death juice. But it will make, for those 90% of people, it will make tennis 10 times, well, not 10 times, but a bit more interesting to watch in a way. But then there's the 10% of tennis purists and tennis people that really, are the traditional, more traditional sense, or some of the players probably that would prefer it to have it the normal way, and that's why it stays that way. That, like you said, with the tradition at the tournaments, what's maybe good for 10% of the people might not be good for the whole sport as a whole. But the people that have the power are usually the ones that are, can control that. So I think it's unique because it puts a different perspective out there. Which I think is a great thing. I just don't know whether it will kind of catch on as much as people think.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a fun experiment, that's the way I see it, and I think tennis has a very good product, but it's just being marketed very poorly, which we already talked about. But that's my feeling, at least. I think the product is very good, players are exciting, but you need to communicate them to a bigger audience. You need to
Yeah.
actually sell the sport again, package it. You don't actually need to change that much, because it's
Yeah.
already pretty good infrastructure. But when it comes to now, like your next journey is top 1,000. You're working hard. What do you think are your biggest steps you need to take to become like a solid top 1,000 and then maybe 500 down the line?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that aims wise, first of all, I'd love to play some Grand Slams. To be honest, I think that it's definitely something. I've been around high level players, training with Draper, Liam Brody, those types of guys. Trained recently with Billy Harris, like the kind of I've seen kind of where the level needs to be, which I think is a kind of a first step in acknowledging where you want to set your aim. But I definitely think that first of all, to kind of get to top 1,000, just play more tournaments, play at a high level. Because since my surgery, I've only really had 2 months where my surgeon said kind of go for it 100%. And I began to see some great success, playing in Portugal, losing to a guy 500, 4-4, then making a decision to go on to clay, which was not a good idea. I'm not playing any more clay for the rest of the year. And then kind of coming onto hard courts and getting my first point in Monastir. So I think to get top 1,000, I think it will just be playing more tournaments, develop a bit more patience on the court, being a bit more relaxed and composed. I think is a big thing. I've got a lot of power, I've got a lot of speed. I like to kind of go for big shots. Just sometimes maybe being a little bit more patient or playing a little bit smarter. Some of the qualies players, I say qualies players, but guys that are usually you find more in qualies of futures. You don't have to play as big. Sometimes they actually prefer being moved, being given pace. Maybe a moon ball return to the center of the court is actually quite effective because then they have to do something and they might not have the weapon to be able to do that, and then they panic and put it out. So yeah, just playing a little bit smarter to get through qualies, give myself the chances in main draw with new balls, and then obviously progressing more kind of to 500, 300, 200. I think we'll just be developing big weapons. I think once you get to challengers, everyone's consistent. You have to be hitting some big shots. Definitely serve and return will be key. And then just keep developing the forehand, build a really consistent backhand, and been working on my slice a lot, really developing like a slice line, slice cross, a bit like when you watch Dan Evans, he really commands the court and changes the pace. It's a great change of pace shot, which can really kind of mess with your opponent if they love one tempo. Just creating a bit of variability, keep developing the weapons, and keep working really hard. I think at the end of the day, that's important. And also working mentally. I think mentally is really key because not only a lot of people talk about mental on the court, actually like focusing on overcoming hurdles and challenges, but for me, the most important thing's been developing mentally off the court, developing into, more of a character that's going to not only work hard, even if I lose or I win, having good habits off the court, but also having the kind of maturity to understand that it's a long process, the maturity to know that there's going to be ups and downs in the journey for everyone. There's going to be highs and lows. And I think that, my surgery's definitely helped with that, to see the low points so I can kind of appreciate where I am now and just understand that it is a journey, it's a process, and you just have to work hard day in, day out. And it might be that you work hard for 6 months and don't see any success, and then it just takes 3 weeks and you're just playing on a different level and something's just clicked. It's not the training you had the night before, it's the 6 months of work that you put in. So I think that mental maturity is gonna kind of I'm obviously still working on it, but trying to just have in a week as many good sessions as possible, and not let my emotions control me, especially when I'm working a lot on a business side of things off the court, which takes a lot of the energy as well. So days are long, but that's essentially what's gonna kind of get me up the rankings, in my opinion, as well. I'm working with a good coach.
Yeah, the coaching is important as well, of course. But do you do any kind of like visualization or meditation to get into the groove before a match, or just generally every day to have like a good foundation of mental well-being, because it's so important on the court?
I think it's something I've done in the past. I personally feel like it gets in my head a little bit. I always start to overthink a little bit. For me, my kind of fundamentals, as I like to say now, are: have I done my work for the day in terms of on the business? Have I edited the videos? Have I planned my videos? Do I have anything that's burning? Have I done that? Yes. Okay, check. Mentally, it's out of my head. Have I done my injury prevention? Have I done my stretching? Have I warmed up? Have I done the key things that I need to do? Am I eating well? Those things, I think, are the biggest indicator of my mental health, because then I I can accept what happens on the tennis court if everything else I've done to the best of my ability and I've kind of controlled that. I think that's really important for me, and I think that I like to kind of visualize a little bit on the court, kind of before points in the change of ends, but I don't want it to drift off too much. It will be more kind of thinking about, okay, I really want to get up to this serve and I want to hit it here, and then I go and serve. Or it might be in the next game, okay, this first point, I'm going to just visualize myself stepping up to it, crunching it big middle, and really looking for the forehand. Those kind of visualizations, I think, really help me. But the more I start to think, okay, about the whole rally, and then I have this like insane rally in my head visualized, like this is Novak against Alcaraz, and then you go and you step up to the line, the guy hits an ace against you, you're like, okay, well, what was that for? And so I just try and keep it simple.
Yeah, I think keeping it simple is smart. You have such a mature mindset. Like, do you get that from your parents instilled, or do you have any other role models that bring you that kind of the mind?
I think it's just having worked. I mean, first of all, my parents, my dad, he's German, so he's been working in marketing for like 20 or 25 years now. So he has a very, when it comes to business and my tennis, a very pragmatic approach. He's very disciplined when it comes to working, and kind of that's translated to me in a sense that kind of working one step at a time, working and saying, okay, look, I know, he says to me, like, I know you're young, I know you want to go and do it and thing, but first of all, we need to build these steps. We need to understand this is the thing, and this is the sensible thing to do. And I think that's kind of spilled over a little bit, but I also think just having, when I started the journey, I took a gap year, so I didn't go to university, and that was quite a big step. So I just had to kind of mentally mature a little bit there and say, look, okay, I put on a piece of paper, how much can I personally, pay for? And this was a kind of decision that my parents kind of said to me, look, Felix, this is your decision to do this. We're happy to help you to this level, which I think wasn't a huge amount. It was, a few £1,000s for the year. And then I kind of said, okay, my journey is going to cost me, in my latest video, it was 50,000 for this year and last year. And so it's might maybe cost 25K a year. How can I bridge that gap? And so I said, look, I have to do something. And the biggest option I had at the time was a YouTube channel. So just posting one video a week. And, I never really get to tell the stories, but the amount of times it's been last minute, stressed, doing it, tears of joy, everything. We've gone through all of the emotions behind the scenes when creating Road 20 to P Point in the journey and posting it on YouTube. I mean, people really just don't understand. So one of the most asked questions from people is, and I'm sure people ask you maybe, is how long does it take to make a video? Because, you see video. My first Road 180 P Point video took me 30 hours, and I without the filming, that was just the editing. And I edited that in 3 days. So it was a proper grind. And that's kind of, I think, makes me appreciate the rest of just life in general, and just being able to be on the tour and being in nice places. Moritoglu is very nice, being at tournaments is very nice. And I think just appreciating that, because I've worked really hard to be able to get to that point. And I think that's one of the main misunderstood things about like YouTube and content creation and that type of business is, you get some people that get really lucky and do something and make loads of money from doing nothing. You get some people that don't make a lot of money doing loads of effort. And I think that, for what we do in tennis, it's usually quite tough to create entertaining, informative content. And a lot of work kind of goes in behind the scenes. I talked to Karoo, I talked to a few other channels that have kind of died out. They just lost motivation. It's really mentally tough and taxing, and I think that's what's kind of built this sort of resilience mentally, which I think is a big strength in everyday life, and it helps me on the court a little bit as well.
Do you? I mean, 30 hours editing. That's a pain. Right? I know the pain pretty well. But you tried to hire an editor for a while. Do you still do it yourself, or do you have an editor now? Or how tough is this to kind of relinquish control and say, hey, you take my baby here and make it into something that I would like to see.
It's difficult. I'm still doing it all by myself in terms of post production at the moment. I think it's difficult because obviously I'm paying for the tennis, which is expensive, and so there's not a massive budget to get someone. I mean, from an initial perspective, it's, if you look at the actual costs of what does someone cost, okay, so if you want them, the ideal world when I'm traveling so much is to have someone with me to help edit and maybe help film some of the stuff. Okay, what's that going to cost? Well, travel expenses, If you're traveling for 4 weeks in a month, that's maybe 4,000. Then you've got to pay them a salary, maybe 2,500. So you're already looking at 6,500 euros for 1 month just to have someone to help you there. And so it's just finding that balance of how can I get someone to help me, but also that I'm not selling an arm and a leg to do that, because I can kind of make do just about for now. So me and my dad have been talking about it, and I think our kind of plan is to just work really, really hard for the rest of this year, and maybe just sacrifice, some friendships. Well, not friendships, but like time with friends, and some of the nicer things, and then just look back at the year and say, okay, we've maybe earned a little bit extra, or we've been able to prove that it works. Okay, let's try and hire someone on this trial basis. Let's try and see if that helps, because I've tried like remote editing, and with the style of my videos, I just don't think it works that well, because I think that first of all, an editor has to love tennis, and second of all, I really struggle to kind of, even if a person has a different style, I feel like I'm all very nitpicky with like little things. Like I could spend 10 hours on a video and then look at it and say, okay, I need to spend another 10 hours because this sound level was wrong. I need to put this here. And I think working with me is pretty much a nightmare. So I think that's why in person it works best, because then there's the most chemistry with that person to be able for them to learn as quickly as possible the way that kind of we do things. And that's why guys like Mr. Beast have 30, 40, 50 editors, because that's essentially just, there's so much attention to detail. And with a tennis journey, it's again never easy. You never know what you're going to get, so you just have to make something from nothing sometimes. We've had days where I have no clue what to film on a Monday, and I need a video by Sunday. Okay, let me do a serve transformation for 1 week. I mean, just completely ridiculous stuff. Can I, as more of an experiment, can I improve my serve over 1 week? Okay, on Amazon, I got to buy a sensor. I got to buy a thing that can measure the serve speed. Okay, what do I want to do? Okay, I want to do serve speed, and I want to do accuracy, and I want to do spin. Okay, we're going to measure over a week. I'm going to do 4 training sessions. I've got to plan when I'm doing them, because that's going to be extra to my training. I've got to have someone there to film me. So there's just so much stuff that goes in. And then, okay, I finished the challenge on Saturday. I've got to edit it all on Sunday. Okay, so it's just so much stuff that goes on there behind the scenes which people don't see, which is just such a crazy thing. And that's what I've said, like with the trying to work to get like a few videos ahead kind of thing, so there's no stress, because some weeks have just been just hell. just crazy weeks, and it can really get to you when you miss a week, or when you don't post for 2 weeks, and you then don't want to start on a piece of bad content. And there's so many things mentally that go into it, as I'm sure is a lot of ups and downs. But yeah, I just try and do the best that I can, and try and get it to a point where maybe one day it can be a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, the way you're moving, I'm sure you can, but it's obviously a big step to get where you have someone understanding your vision and being able to work together. Because as you say, like, you're filming yourself hitting balls, and like, this looked good, I like this point. It's kind of tough to give that to someone else, and they have to be a tennis player, because otherwise how will they take your match content and dial it down to the highlights you need, or the key points. If you have someone who really understands your game and your style, okay, but it's not that easy to find. So I understand the complexity of the challenge, right?
Yeah.
One question more I have is, when you had those really rough, I mean, you had some really bad luck with injuries, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to still shell out content. You're probably feeling like shit. You can't play, because playing tennis is also like a little bit of therapy for most people. Like, just like hitting the ball, moving out, sweating out, and you can't do that. And then your videos will suffer a bit, because you're in this kind of dark place.
Yeah.
As a YouTuber and player.
Yeah, it was a difficult time, which I'm grateful for my family and friends, to be honest, for helping me just stay disciplined with what I was doing and focus one day at a time, training wise. Because it was easy to get down on myself, because from a content perspective, there was nothing really cool to film, and I set the benchmark quite high. I have quite high aspirations for videos. Like it kind of like, if I have to do a day in the life video, it will just kind of, I don't know, it hurts me a little bit in my soul that I'm not doing something really cool. And as much informative as they are, once you do the 30th day in the life video, it's the same. It's wake up, breakfast, tennis, recover, tennis, gym, eat, go to bed. It's very simple. So I think that, it was just a process of just building on my tennis day by day, and understanding that it takes a bit of time. And it got a few points where I thought, I was behind where I needed to be. So we went back to where the surgery was, get reassessed and have a look at it, and worries and doubts whether it's going to improve. I go play my first tournaments in Greece in like March, which is 4 months after the surgery. Play terribly, but at that point it was, I think I can say it now. I didn't really say it at the time, but it was like I had the 3 ITF singles points, which allows you to be higher than everyone that enters the tournament without a ranking at all. So it's like a kind of transition point before ATP points. I had 3 from the previous year, and then I went on an 11-match losing streak till the end of the year. So I start playing the tournaments probably 2 months before I should have actually played tournaments, only with the only aim of getting 1 point so that I can just be ahead of the other guys before I lose my points. Because then the whole journey would have been like maybe 2 months where I don't actually get into a tournament, which would have been horrific. So I got pretty lucky there. I managed to get 1 in the first tournament and 1 a couple weeks later. But that was also quite tough. Competing before I was ready was not a fun experience. Being at a tournament and not feeling like you're part of the event. You're losing in qualifying first round. You can't go lower than that. And at least at Challengers and ATP, you can think, okay, this is my ranking, I'm already. But you can't go lower than professional like ITF qualifying. And that's mentally really challenging, especially when you're posting it to hundreds of thousands of people. That's really tough, which not a lot of people kind of understand in a way, because you're basically showing everyone that you're your level all the time. And it is funny because the tennis world is a bit like that. But since I've got my first ATP point, I've actually had a lot of people that are higher up in tennis start following me. And I'm not going to name names, but I guess I just find that funny that they weren't following me when I was losing first round qualifying in Heraklion, but now they're following me, messaging me now that I've got my ATP points, and that it's all kind of the tennis is, I think there's just that kind of mutual respect amongst tennis players at that are like higher up. So you're just kind of breaking down those barriers. I think it is good as well, because you just feel a bit more like I'm part of the event in a weird way, and that's why doubles helped me quite a lot, because I've had some success in doubles. So feeling like I can go deeper in the event doubles wise made me feel like a bit of a proper tennis player, getting ATP points, getting prize money, rising the rankings. That kind of what helped me through when I wasn't playing good singles. That was really motivating for me. And I definitely think that, if at some point singles becomes really tough, or we get to a sticking point, or just decide that, I want to do something different, I definitely think that there's opportunity now in doubles at the challenger level to play challengers, because you get free accommodation, you get all decent prize money. So there's maybe opportunity at some point down the line to do a bit of doubles. I know my brother loves doubles as well, so maybe Tennis Brothers doubles series in the future. But yeah, it was a tough time, but it makes me appreciate kind of what's going on now.
That's I can imagine that, but that's I can see also why people reach out, because you kind of like, now you're legit for like the high ranking, because a lot of tennis players, they live in a bubble. Like I hang around some ATP pros, high ranking pros, when I'm traveling around or here in Marbella, and it's like tennis is a small world, but it's a little bit of a bubble. Like, and everybody seems to check rankings, seems to check, is this guy doing, what is he changing rackets, he's doing this, he's new physio, new coach. And so it's a small world, and everybody knows what everybody's doing, because even on social media, tennis is pretty small in relative terms, right?
It's funny as well you say that, sorry, because when I was initially at the beginning of my series talking to Bublik, so he was at Queen's practicing, he sees me, he says, like, come over, he messaged me a few times. So he kind of comes over, and I was saying I was injured at the time, so he wanted to practice with me at Queen's, but I was injured. I was like, gutted. And then basically kind of saying like, it's tough to gauge the level through the tennis, but you can just tell they're all in that kind of world, like, where the futures and the challenges is like kind of easy, and it's weird, like, when you talk to someone, because everyone's at their own pace, like everyone does it differently, and it's a bit eye-opening from that perspective, because it makes you feel a little bit like worthless when you talk to the guys like Alcaraz, who are like, oh yeah, mate, challenger, it was just 1 out of 15, like, but everyone's at their own journey, so you just gotta But Bublik's a really nice guy. I don't want to throw any shade, of course, but he was like saying, oh, he was saying positive things. It was like, but it kind of made me feel like, wow, So he said, for example, like, oh, I think you were going to go straight, like, all the way to top 500 by the end of the year, but now you're injured, and then having kind of only seen one of my matches, I was like, thanks for the vote of confidence, mate, but not going to go back quickly, I think. But back like a year and a half ago when my level was nowhere near where it is now. So, yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, he seems like a funny guy. He has a funny attitude and like a good person in general. But
Yeah.
but I mean, when you're, obviously you're doing this in a unique way. I think you're the first guy who've done this at least like so consistently and gone from like I set out my goal, I made the goal, and I keep on going, right? And I think like even I noticed like you have top players watching my videos. I mean, I'm sure everybody's watching your videos, but they're not, usually with the ATP pros, they don't want to subscribe or be visible,
That is such a good way of putting it, because I hear it's weird. Like no one kind of says it to my face in a way, but I hear stories from people about players. So like, it's just really funny. Like I was played doubles with Anthony Popperin, whose brother is Alexei Popperin, and he's kind of saying,
yeah, I know. Yeah.
he's saying like, he said to me like, all the guys watch your videos, like all the guys, and I'm like, oh really? Like why is no one telling? Like what, you know what I mean? Like come on, like do a video with me, please. Players asking you, like guys, even like Stefanos Tsitsipas, like I'm good friend, like friends with his brother and stuff, but Anthony is telling me like, oh yeah, Steph was asking if you're going to the academy and stuff, and like I was like, oh, just ask me, please, DM me, But it's like you said, it's that level where it's they don't have to. At the end of the day, I watch channels and don't message them either, so it's not like an expected thing. It's just funny that sometimes when you meet them in person, they're like, oh yeah, I've watched your videos, like I know who you are, kind of thing. And it's like, oh really, that's nice, when you meet the guys, you sure you've had, you said have the same experience. So it's sometimes quite nice when that happens.
Yeah, and I think for them, I'm trying to figure it out because like some are really quite open, some are like, oh, and I think it's because they're so private, they feel like, okay, they don't want to open Insta messages because they can get haters from guys who lost money, or like you mentioned before, it's a big problem. And maybe like they just too much DM, too much action, right? So I think they get really reserved, and then maybe sometimes their coach or their team wants to shield them from everything.
Yeah.
So they get kind of like brainwashed into this, like, don't communicate with anyone outside our little team, because that you might disrupt your ecosystem here that we have. And it's like it's weird because you go to ATP tournaments and you go to the restaurant, and the player restaurant, like, and I'm there just chilling, and I know some of the players, I know the tournament director, but then everybody's their own island. So you have like, oh, this Felix team, he doesn't talk to anyone. He only talks to his team. And then, there's this guy's team. And I'm like, why don't you just hang out? You go to the same tournament all the time. You could at least say, hi, hey man, how are you doing? Even if you're going to play the next round,
Yeah.
But it seems like they hold the cards really close to the vest and they don't want to say anything. It's like that.
Strange tennis players. It's, I know exactly what you mean. And, I think it's a shame, really, because a lot of the players will probably be good friends, but I guess you're there for business. At the end of the day, business has got to be taken care of. You don't want to be distracted by things, and each their own. If that works for you or that works for some of the players, then stick with it.
Yeah. Do you have any sleazy agents reaching out to you and want to manage your career now that you're well on the radar?
Not really.
I mean, you have your father, I know that, but there's other people coming out,
Not particularly. I mean, you get like you get a lot of like requests for like to people to like for like videographers and like agents and brands and all of that. As I'm sure is like a lot of all the time. So I think it's you just got. I just try and focus on making videos and playing tennis, because as soon as it goes beyond that, it becomes. I can't be an accountant, a tax advisor for myself, learn all of that, okay, then do the videos, okay, then film the videos myself. That's not even physically possible. And then, play tennis. And, so there's just try and focus on the essentials at the end of the day, because I'd rather do 2 things well than 5 things average. I'm surprised you haven't asked me about my racket yet.
No. I'm tired of rackets. No, I can ask you about your racket.
had enough. He's done reviews for so many years. He's just given up.
Yeah, it does really like get on your nerves after a while, especially when you're playing. I'm playing some opens and stuff just myself on my level, but it's like having this racket madness in your head or in your bag. It's disaster, right? It's like so bad. And now I just took a racket from one of the bags. I have like 100 rackets in the wardrobe, and I just picked a racket and I was like, okay, I'm gonna play. My next 3 tournaments, I'm playing like some ITF seniors
Yeah,
and something like
I saw.
with just this racket, just as a test and see even just not like being selected for that, you know. So I know you play with the Dunlop, which is a racket I like, the CX200, right? And you always, was that like a big change to switch to that, or you always felt, you know, that was kind of your spec?
I mean, I think first of all, I'd say I'm kind of the opposite of you, and I obviously don't know how. Like,
That's good. That's
it
good.
sounds like you play with a lot of different rackets and trying stuff and switching. I've stayed with the same racket for nearly 4 years now. Haven't well, there was one model change where they upgraded the line of rackets, but I pretty much stayed with the CX200 from Dunlop for 2 or 3 years. So before that, I played with the Wilson Ultra. Yeah, it was an 1820 frame. It was
Yeah.
quite tough to play with. I played with the strings that were quite tight, like 60 pounds as well. So I wasn't that big physically. So it was just a really bad match, and nobody really ever told me to change. So I played with like a tough string pattern in terms of power, and then like really tight strings. And so it was difficult to kind of develop good shots and good technique and stuff. So when I switched to the CX, it was a bit more open, 1619. Felt like I get a little bit more power, and then lower the tension a little bit, and then boom, just way more power. And I think that's kind of just helps me a little bit. And then I just increased the tension a little bit, just get a little bit more control when I've been playing in hotter conditions. And I feel like I've got to a reasonably good a good place now, you know.
Yeah, and you spec them up a bit. You add some weight to them, I guess.
Yeah, so
They're quite
when you
light.
get them from Dunlop, I mean, this is the only thing about the rackets. There's like plus minus like 7 grams, and usually the ones from Dunlop aren't amazing at coming out the factory the same. I mean, they're not bad by any means, but it's like 3 grams here. So for the average player, let me just preface, it's for the average player, it won't make a difference. Like you will not notice it. But at kind of my level and higher, you kind of begin to want to have it the same, just for mental sanity as well.
Of
So
course, yeah.
I kind of it was a bit. I just had a racket that I'd added some weight to, like myself, with some like lead tape or something, and I really just loved the feel of it. So I basically got all of my new rackets from Dunlop and said, "Can we spec this to the exact same as what this one is?" Yeah, and then they were like, "Okay, yeah, we'll do it." And then I basically have all of these the same. So I don't really know actually what the specs are. I think it's like 307 grams unstrung weight. I think it's the swing weight is, I don't know what the swing weight is, but I think 207, 307, right? 307,
Yeah.
yeah, is unstrung weight, and then I'll kind of have them the same. But I've played more around with the strings rather than the actual frame as well. Recently trying out some natural gut on the racket, on the crosses. Initially, just after my surgery with my arm, just a bit softer. But I actually quite like it. It gives me a good extra pop on the ball, and a really nice feeling on the racket. And mainly I'm using Dunlop Explosive Bite, which is my kind of the main string, which I really like. But yeah, just experimenting with it a little bit, and for the moment I quite like it.
Yeah, no, it's a good setup, especially like that racket. I like the feeling of, and if you add gut to the crosses or mains, it's gonna be very nice. Obviously the gut's gonna be costly, but if you get strings for free, then it's manageable. It's like because I guess you break strings right quite frequently, so it's not like you
Yeah.
have to string your rackets for every practice and stuff like
No,
that.
no,
That's what the club
the
players.
the gut I obviously pay for because Dunlop doesn't manufacture gut, unfortunately. So I just buy that, but I haven't really been playing around too much with it. I haven't really decided to make 100% switch to it. So yeah, I get the Dunlop Explosive Bite from Dunlop. So that helps on the cost as well. And I mean, in training, I don't really mind. I like to have two fresh rackets for matches, like every ball change, ideally. But especially in hot conditions, if it's like damp and wet, I might just keep the same racket because I don't really mind. But yeah, especially with the gut, it kind of wears down quite quickly. But with the Dunlop strings, I'm not too too fussed about switching that regularly. I just let it wear down. It lasts quite a while.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of pros now trying out strings, especially. So I think that seems to be the situation where people are now like, how can I get more? Can I get, change something?
Yeah.
A lot of hybrids, sometimes poly hybrids. So you have two polyesters,
Yeah.
trying to get some like Casper Ruud or, a few other
Well,
players.
Karoo
But
uses.
yeah,
Yeah,
sorry?
Karoo uses poly as well. You
Yeah,
tell me
yeah.
about
It,
strings
it,
in Monastery.
yeah, he's using also pretty high tensions, like 59 pounds or something, which
We
is
go into
pretty high.
the stringing room at this tournament, and I'm stringing at, usually I'm playing 51, 54, but I think
It's good,
I
good.
want to go up a little bit. So let's say 53, 56 is what I'd usually have. I was stringing like 55, 57 in Monastery because they string it a little bit looser and it's pretty hot.
Yeah,
Karoo
it's very
goes
hot.
in, hands the racket, and says, "Can I just have 64?" Or like 62 or something crazy. And I was like, wow, that's going to be so tight. And he was like, okay, there, but I'd rather have a bit more control and just swing through rather than just the ball go everywhere. Because he was playing like the next day or something, so didn't have loads of time to acclimatize. So he said I'd rather get them strung a little bit looser next time. But that was crazy. I was like, my eyes were like, what? That's like nearly, what's the highest tension you've ever seen like a player play with, like a tour player, like?
Yeah, I mean, before in the old days, like people used to use multi-filaments to use a string really high. I think even Becker strung were 80 pounds or something, but that was like with a gut or
Yeah.
multi-filament. So that's a board still. But from the ATP pros, I would say Dustin Brown, 70 pounds on a pure drive.
Wow, that's gonna be
Yeah, so it's just pretty much like now you have a frying pan. Like
Yeah.
you're removing all the flex in the racket.
Yeah.
There's nothing left, right? It's just like brick. I don't know how his arm lived to see that. I mean, he plays very specific tennis,
Yeah,
right? Very
short
flat, goes
point.
for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, short points, but it's that's a board. And then you have obviously guys like Manarino, that uses like 25, 23 pounds,
Yeah.
like insane, like moving around with 10 kilos, trying to play with that. I don't, I've tried it, but it's not for everyone.
I
It's-
think one of my video ideas for YouTube, like a YouTube Shorts, was to test out the highest and the lowest tension on a racket and actually see how different it is to play. So I can now use your Dustin Brown reference as the higher end. What tension is Manarino in pounds? Like 30?
The one when I measured, I met him in Malta. It was
I watched
25 pounds, but he's gone down, right? So it's like I think the last I've heard was either like 22 or 21 pounds.
Wow, 21
Yeah,
pounds.
so you can almost pull it by hand then. So you just need the hand pull. You don't need to string it.
If it's a really cold day, you might go down to 10 pounds. Like, who knows?
Yeah. No. He's just, it doesn't swing at the ball as much as other pros. He's more like he's touching it around. He has good touch, good feel, good timing. So, I think some player just said like it's one of the most annoying guys to play because you don't understand what's happening on the impact from the other guy, right?
Yeah.
You're like hitting the ball over and it's coming back with some weird spin and pace,
Yeah.
So it's a smart thing to play that different, It's like pretty smart in a way.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna try the video, you don't have to go that bad. But go maybe 25 and 65 or something. But it would be interesting to see.
That'll be fun.
It's 40 pounds difference, a huge in a tennis racket.
One ball's just going to be an absolute rocket and one's just going to go bottom of the net.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much it. So when it comes to your brother, by the way, because you're tennis brothers from the start, and you've been doing YouTube for quite a while, right? I mean, I remember you from way before the ATP. Road to the ATP series. He's not trying to go pro. He's more doing normal life stuff. Lucian.
He was. So for 2 years, he kind of quit tennis and wasn't sure where he was kind of tennis-wise. But, since I've been playing more, since my surgery, he's been playing a lot more now as well. So he was with me in Monastery. He won a round in the quali. So he's playing better and better and better. He has a lot more talent than I have as a tennis player. He's more up and down mentally and emotionally, and I think with some training he can really be a force. Maybe thinking of going to college in America, which might give him some time. But I definitely think he will try and go pro. Whether that's maybe only in doubles because he finds that more fun. Whether he wants to try it in singles as well, because you got to remember that a lot of the singles guys, unless you're really kind of believe in yourself that you can get to like a level where financially it makes sense, you're just burning cash. If I know realistically if I believed that I would only get to like 900 in the world or 1,000 maximum, if you're at like a higher age or you just don't care that much, then you just got to accept that you're going to burn money. And I know that Lucian, when he commits to things, will go for it 100%. So he obviously has the talent and the level. Like, it's insane in practice. He just plays so good. He's beating me in practice regularly. So it's just whether he can kind of apply himself mentally and wants to do it, and really enjoys the journey, because it is a grind. Monastir, Antalya, those types of places, you're stuck there for a few weeks at a time, eating the same food every day, training with the same people, playing on the same courts, not playing that many matches. If you lose first round qualies, you've got no matches other than doubles for the rest of the week. That's why I like the UTR events that they're putting in. You get five matches, you get some good prize money. I think it's $250 minimum. Actually, no, if you come last, you get nothing, but mostly like maybe $250 for playing. I'm not sure. But yeah, stuff like that I think is great, because I think that has a real chance of, I don't want to say, but like competing with ITF events for players at the moment, because you can't get ATP points from them, but competing for the players playing them, because if a player has to choose between playing 5 matches in a week, having all of the matches on video with a good like scoreboard and stuff like that, which you can then either analyze or post or whatever. Like, I watch Grisha's videos from Gladiators, he posts it, and then you've got good prize money. Winner gets $3,500. You get $250 minimum. Why would I play a futures tournament where I play first round qualies, I lose, I get nothing? Especially the guys up to like 1,000 in the world, because the guys above 1,000, you're starting to go deeper in the tournament. You might make 1,000 and lots of ATP points, which pushes you up the rankings, and then you get that uplift. But guys that are getting like 2-3 points a year, they're making like $2,000 a year off ITFs. Why wouldn't they play 10, 15 UTR events if they can? If their UTR is high enough, why not? So I think that if they just do more events and maybe lower the level that the UTR required to play those events, maybe, and I think that would be something interesting. To see how that develops.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be like, the potential is there to make it like an alternative tour, right? Like, say, hey, if you don't have success on this tour, like, people treat doubles in a way, but whereas many do. Like, it's okay, I didn't work out as a singles player, but I'm a pretty good guy at the net. I can hold my own in doubles. You go to the doubles tour, and this could be like, okay, I'm not getting through it to get enough points to really see my ranking increase, but then I can go play UTR events, maybe with some financial success, or at least enjoy playing tennis for more years, so you're not like stuck or you have to give up, or, because I meet guys over here in Marbella, if I play an open, like, that's €500 for the price, for the first prize, 250 for the finalist,
Yeah.
And there's really strong players like ATP 900 joins, and top X2 top 100 guys, and they fighting like crazy for €500, because that's still decent compared to what you get maybe to go. Then you have to travel. Then also, if you have to go play, futures, right?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, those tournaments in your country that pay good are going to be. That's why the guy I was supposed to go to Sharm el Sheikh next week. He played what's called the UK Pro League in the UK, where you get a lot of money. The winner of that tournament this week actually gets £10,000. So it's good compared to the Pro Tour prize pot. They have 9 tournaments a year, is $500,000. So it's a lot. It's streamed on like BT Sports. It's quite a big thing kind of in the UK. So I think that stuff like events like that are really, even if they don't necessarily get a lot of viewers, are really good at giving back to the kind of players in a way. And I hope that can remain the same, because the age-old problem is guys at the lower level don't do anything so good that they have loads of followers, and because they don't have loads of followers, they don't draw loads of people, and because they don't draw loads of people, they don't make loads of money, and therefore they don't get paid loads of money. But the only way they get paid is through like an investment into the lower levels of the tour, which I don't think is how it should be. I think it should be that players get opportunities to be able to grow their social media, because you can't expect a player to turn up with a camera to a match. Like, that's not, you're not going to buy a $400 camera, GoPro, whatever, to go play their matches. I think, you maybe should provide that service, let them then post it, like Grisha is a good example, and then that will snowball into multiple people having kind of being more known, and the whole tennis space being a bit more exciting. You see that in basketball, in in like high school and college basketball. Everyone's got Instagram accounts with thousands of followers, people reposting, big accounts acknowledging the lowest people on Instagram, reposting their stuff, saying, look at this player. And I think that's what tennis is missing. You know, the ATP tour is only ATP tour. Tennis TV is only the top guys. It's you know you never and the problem with that is you don't. It's kind of chicken and egg in a way. The reason two guys ranked 99th and 104, if they put a video on Tennis TV, it's not going to get loads of views. But I don't think it's because of the level of tennis. It's because they're not well known. But the reason they're not well known is because they're not given the chance in the first place. You know, just like a chicken and egg. It's whether if they don't get the chance to promote themselves, they're not going to grow, and if they don't grow, then they're not going to get the chance to promote themselves. You know.
Yeah, this is 100% true. And also, I think sometimes, like, Tennis TV is one example. Like, they have lots of matches. I don't know how many people. I would love to see streaming data on how many people stream ATP first rounds, whatever. Yeah. I think it's very player based, right? So you have a hero. It could be Felix Schmischker, you know. It could be whoever. But it's like you have someone you follow because you like the style, you like the personality. It's like any sport. Yeah. Like you follow a team or a person because they have something that you enjoy, whatever that is, right? That entertains you. And if you showed more like Challenger Tour, even on Tennis TV, I don't know why really, but it's like you could have Challenger Tour matches. The best Challenger Tour matches, or here are some characters on the Challenger Tour, and they could package it so they could have like more cameras because that's cheap. The ATP Tour can afford having cameras on every match court. I think that's not so difficult.
Yeah.
And then having like some interviews or like this guy we know he's a character, he's a pretty funny guy, or this is crazy Danny, you know, like Danny Kulver who used to threaten people on the court. I mean, you create more of an interesting storyline around that because you have some people that are like quite interesting to follow. It becomes kind of like a reality show, but with sports, you know. Mm-hmm. Like I mean, I feel like you can do that also maybe even more successfully on the lower level than to have these guarded ATP top pros for like the Netflix show, because that's like sometimes they're so, you know, protected in a way they don't want to be like they have a lot of like things riding on its sponsors and so on. Yeah. While if you go to the lower levels, challenges, whatever, people can be more free and open and be more interesting, really, right?
So true. I mean, the ATP thing was, I thought it was terrible. I thought the break point was so bad. There was maybe one good episode with Kyrgios and Woodham, which I quite enjoyed, but the personalities and the people that can actually say things are challengers and futures. You know, there's actually good stories, but the problem is it's all about money, isn't it? It's all about marketability, and that's a huge risk. You're thinking someone getting, you know, a lot of money, the top of marketing in ATP, they're not going to go and say, okay, yeah, let's pay for a film crew or team to go and film this guy at futures level for 2 months and see what happens. Like, that's going to cost maybe £15,000, dollars, euros, whatever it is. And then that's a big risk. If that doesn't do well, then it's like, okay, someone below him has a reason. Oh, look at what he's done. It's not good. This is what I've done. Let me get promoted. Because at the end of the day, every business is a company. And at the end of the day, in a company, every person wants what's best for themselves financially, and nobody wants to take a risk. So that's what we see when we work with a lot of brands, is the people don't want to take risks. And it's like a constant fight to prove to the guy working in the brand a reason to go to his boss and say, this is why it will work. And a lot of these guys aren't going to take risks without guarantees. And in a space where no one does cool stuff, mainly because no one does cool stuff, but in tennis nobody does like crazy videos, mainly because nobody can do the crazy videos, but because it's never been done, nobody can do it, kind of thing. So it's like a cycle.
Yeah.
In other sports, people have made viral content, and then on the back of that, it's kind of snowballed slowly. You see in football is a great example. You see like PSG doing like a day in Dubai. They invite 5-6 influencers, and they have Mbappe, Neymar, Donnarumma, and then all of the guys there, they do a video, like millions and millions of views, like 2-3 million views on each piece of content. And they've just got these guys for like half a day, probably as part of their contract with a brand to just do it, and they're happy to be there. And then you create something really cool. Whereas like in tennis, that just does not exist, you know?
No, and you can even do, like they could do some action matches, say, okay, they pick some matches, players need to agree with this because it's part of their, you know, agreement, whatever. And where you have different cameras or interviews in between sets or whatever. I mean, you try a little bit of a different format, you know, you just have to everyone agree, like this tournament, we're going to try this format. But they don't ever try anything. So it's always the same. And sometimes when you go to ATP 250s, and you go there the early days, and I like to go days where there's not that much people because you can get really close and it's more personal.
Yeah.
But it's also hurts me as a tennis fan that the stadium's like very very empty. You know, it's like this is like you know, people are at work or it's a summer, they're not there. It's no famous names, because I feel like it's not marketed. It's most like they have 3 top names, they market them, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, they don't do anything to try to sell the whole product beyond the tennis lovers already, you know. So that's something, I think that's great with what you're doing. I must say that, you know, that I think your YouTube videos, in the way they're cut and edited, and your journey opens up for people that are not into tennis to actually watch tennis, you know, like get more into tennis. I think that can reach, you know, because I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube. I'm a big YouTube fan. Like, that's probably what I watch the most. Like Ryan Trahan, I watch a lot of shit. I watch Mr.
Right.
Beast.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan's great, you know. And I find so many good creators there, and get so much value from my like YouTube premium subscription
Yeah.
compared to my Netflix subscription. Like, I feel like there's so much good stuff there, you know.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like tennis, they don't use all the tools in the box. You know, they need like to hire some social media geniuses or whatever, you know, try to change something, you know.
100% agree. It's just about the creation of viral content more regularly with more players. Needs to be more diversity and more interesting stuff. I mean, even some like basic things like, why do we not have mics on where the chairs at the tournaments? You see the constantly videos on YouTube, tennis drama. I think there's probably there's one channel that literally his whole channel is posting the drama between players, and it has thousands of views, thousands. But it's always like has to be like in a match. Like you need mics on these things. You need to like expect it in a way. You need to embrace that, because that's what gets tennis. I mean, it's going to be 0.01% of actual like on-court Alcaraz versus Novak level of tennis gets more than the 10% of the tennis purist people. Nobody's going to look at that and say, is that good? That seems pretty all right, you know. And that's why you get that figure that all the Americans think that they can beat a pro in a match, like, because they have no clue about the level. But then when you get the drama, the Tsitsipas Kyrgios match was one of the most viewed matches in the whole of Wimbledon when they had that drama. Not because of the tennis, not because of the tennis at all, because of the drama. Because Stefanos tried to hit someone, Kyrgios retaliated, tried to get him banned, then Kyrgios did something crazy. That's what tennis needs to go to, but nobody can say it. Nobody can go out there and say to the ATP, look, we need to make tennis more crazy. We need to make tennis more controversial. We need to make tennis more like this, because in a way, it's not a great environment for players. Want to be respected. They want to get their prize money checks and they want to go home. They don't want to have any drama. Most players. But in basketball, it's all about the drama. How can I create drama is what they're thinking. How can I disrupt my opponent? How can I, because I guess when you have the backing of your team, that's a bit different. In team sports, if you go out there and do something that you get a red card, you're patted on the back and said, good job. You know, most of the time. Whereas in tennis, if you do something like that, everyone other than the 3 people privately in the locker room is going to be like, what the hell was that? And that's really tough to take. And so I think that's the problem. You don't get enough guys like Kyrgios who don't care. Kyrgios does not care. Well, in a way, you know what I mean? He just doesn't let anyone tell him what he can and can't do. And that's why he's one of the biggest growth opportunities for tennis that has been in the last year, other than the big 3. And once Novak eventually retires and Rafa retires, and Murray retires, I don't think people are going to be getting out of their chairs to watch Seb Korda against Sebastian Baez, as good as they are, and as upcoming as they are, and as crazy as they are. I just don't think there's enough of those. Like, you look back in the old days, or not old days, but like a while ago, before I was born, like McEnroe and Borg and those guys, like those big rivalries. I mean, the closest you've got to that is Sinner Alcaraz. But even that is like, it's nowhere near in comparison to like the big 3, Fed, Novak, Rafa. And that's kind of tough to swallow, I think.
Yeah, hopefully Sinner Alcaraz will be like a big 3 matchup, but I agree. The tennis level there is insane, but Alcaraz's personality, I think, is very marketable. Sinner's maybe not so much, or it's pretty boring. And I understand why it's good to keep your emotions, because I go crazy on a tennis court, and if I, start letting my emotions take over, it goes to shit. You know, it's like tennis is a mental mad sport.
Yeah.
Right? But I think, like you said, you need to allow some, and I usually get some crap for this because people are so puritanical about tennis, is that you need to allow for some craziness to occur. Like you need to allow for some outbursts. I mean, don't hit the ref in the eye with the tennis ball. I mean, or
Yeah, be
you don't need to
respectful,
do
but as long
that.
as it's not affecting anyone else, then and I think that it's just a fine line between entertainment and like abuse. I think that if
Yeah,
you can create that fine line, and if the drama boils over a little bit, then for the sport and for viewership might actually be not bad. But if it's kind of kept very the same and traditional, I don't see a reason why someone of my age or younger that is going to grow up to be 20 or 30, other than the fact that they love tennis beyond anything, would watch tennis over basketball, over American football, over soccer or football, over anything like that, if they have the choice. And that is the biggest problem because, this is kind of bad to say, but I get bored when watching matches between guys who are like 70 in the world because I don't know either of them. There's no personal attachment. The level of tennis, I know it's going to be good. Look at a challenger. I know the level's good, but there's two Spanish guys I've never heard of. I don't know anything about them. There's no drama or anything on the court. Why am I going to watch that? There's no
yeah.
reason, and that's the biggest problem is finding a reason, finding that hook.
Yeah, exactly, and that's would be. I mean, if you want to sell a series to Netflix, or whatever, you need to have the hook. What's the selling point? Like, what's the product? And I think sometimes we need to step back and revisit because I think the product right now is like for people who play tennis, they're usually crazy about tennis. I meet so many crazy tennis lovers, and I love the community. It's amazing community. You have a fantastic community of followers yourself, and it's great. But beyond those followers, you need to get people watching tennis in an excited, animated way that are not players. I think that's important because there's so many people watching basketball. They don't go out and shoot hoops.
Yeah,
They're watching basketball, like or playing American football or soccer or whatever. But tennis suffers that like if you're a player, you have all the kits and stuff. Yes, that's a smaller group. You need to get the players also that are not maybe playing tennis on a regular, right?
yeah.
You need to get those people to watch as well. And for that, you need to build a storyline. Who are these guys? And what's exciting about this matchup?
Like, why
And
should
try
I
to
care,
really
kind of
package
thing.
it.
Why should I
Yeah,
care about the tennis, and then give a reason and do it regularly enough for people to turn it on, because that's the biggest thing.
yeah,
And that's like a massive domino effect. Because, I mean, to be honest, when you look, we'd like to think it's a domino effect that more tennis viewers means more entertainment, more money, or more stuff, but whether that's true, we're not really sure because it's already a viewed a lot, and the money is, well, it's just a shambles really. But I think it will generate more buzz, and it'll be good for us, I guess, as tennis YouTubers, because more people will watch the sport for our business, but also for the sport overall, and for players who are playing even at the lower level events, to have some people actually watching and appreciating their level of tennis that they've put hard work into. Guys at challenger events working, they're maybe 25, they've put a solid probably 18 years of their life, 18 to 23 years of their life into tennis, paid lots of money, hustled for sponsors, unless obviously their parents are rich, but maybe talking about the average person, then then nobody's watching your matches. That's very tough, very tough.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. They should offer. I mean, for sure, they should offer streams for every like. I think any future match should have a stream or something.
yeah,
I mean, like that. Technically, that shouldn't be that costly. Like from what you can stream. I mean, I can put on a camera and stream in the back of any, right? It's not that hard, right?
yeah.
The technology infrastructure should be there.
Yeah, it's just hiring the people to do it, I think, is the problem,
Yeah,
and actually just wanting to, because like, why would a tournament director at an ITF event do that? There's got to be incentive, and at the end of the day, it's always money, isn't it? It's always got to be, why should I do that? Okay, I get money from people staying in the hotel, I get money from the entry fee, I get money for playing, rinse and repeat every week. Why should I now try and do something different, to take a risk and spend some money and do that, when it works fine now and I make an all right living as the tournament? That's how I was tournament director. I make an all right living. I'm happy with it, because you need everyone to kind of change a little bit. It's not just the organisation, or unless the ITF puts in legislation for like a legally thing that you have to do it, which is the only way to change. But I don't know whether the ITF actually cares that much about the players, to be honest.
when you've been traveling around to the ITF tournaments, is there like a wide variety of like, the conditions when you go there? Courts, hotel, transport. are some like nightmare, and are some just like, wow, this is the best? Like this, so far, this is the best tournament I've been to. Like, what are your experiences there? Is it very varying or quite steady level?
I mean, first of all, I kind of like to say most of these tournaments are, in terms of like what's the best way to describe this? From like the ITF, I guess ITF are putting on the event. From an ITF like standpoint, they're pretty much always the same. There's the minimal effort, minimal of everything. Usually, it's down to the club running the event to help promote, to help create a good atmosphere, to create a good environment. And most of the time, the club doesn't care. So the problem is I'd say most of the events that I've been to, Spain, Portugal, you're going to get a club, you're going to get maybe some people in the evening coming out to watch because there's a restaurant there, they can go and eat some food, maybe watch some tennis. But in the day, it's completely dead. The only event that I've ever been to actually where I felt like a player was recently in Metzingen in Germany, a 15K tournament, and you go there, you get like a badge, like a accreditation. They have like a players area where they have some free food and some food where you pay for. They have seating and it's actually controlled. Like no one can just walk in there. You've got like a warm up area with some foam rollers. They provide equipment. You got like they charge people entry to come and watch the event, and people pay and they come, and you have maybe for my second round qualies match, I had 80 to 100 people there watching, and I felt like a proper player. Like there's actually people here, whether or not they know who I am or whatever. It's just nice to have that environment. They have a center court, they have a scoreboard, they have sponsors, and sponsors is the key thing. They had Boss as a sponsor, they had a couple companies probably locally, and I guess to help finance it. But yeah, it was a really nice event, and I really actually enjoyed being part of it. I felt like a proper player. And then you go to like Monastir, Tunisia, and it just feels like a kind of a terrible holiday kind of thing where you kind of have to play tennis, and you're out in boiling heat. It's like a family resort where you're staying. It's not bad, but it's not like nice. It's bearable maybe, but it's very repetitive after a while. There's not much to do there. You have a beach, you have a gym, which is not great, and then you just got to kind of, if you're there for multiple weeks, just deal with it. Outside our room, you've got like a pool, and they're screaming on the speakers, playing music, and they're shouting and it's like crazy, and they're shouting like stuff and random. Like I was in my room trying to work, like it's just the aircon's broken, sewage coming in, like the toilet system's broken. You maybe got a cockroach in your room that you got to deal with, animals. Like, it's just everything in this like kind of craziness, and obviously that the more like if the tournament hotel is nice, usually it's just more expensive, and so it's like, okay, well that's just expected. There's a tournament in Kuwait that I was looking at playing at the Rafa Nadal Academy out in Kuwait, which looks pretty nice. But the tournament hotel is the Grand Hyatt Regency, and the actual I think price per night is, I think it's like €200 for a double room, which 100 without lunch and dinner. So that's quite a lot when you're going there for
That's a lot.
multiple weeks. Like for tennis players at least, where the tournament I'm playing in Portugal is probably the best pricing for value. You get I think it's like a bungalow with like 2 bedrooms for like €40 or something. So that's like pretty good value. You can actually afford to kind of play those events. You might even make a profit that week, and I think maybe tournaments could do a better job. Like, well, ITF could do a way better job at making the tournaments just a little bit better, hospitality-wise especially. Like maybe just having some Airbnbs that they recommend, or host families. They do that well in America, but not in any other countries. But to be honest, I don't know. In Tunisia, I probably wouldn't want to go outside the site. To be honest, I wouldn't. I've heard some crazy things there. So yeah, maybe in more like European countries work better.
Yeah, being a tennis player is a crazy lifestyle. There's a lot of stories there, and that's good. Like that, you have a YouTube channel, and I mean, it's always nice to hear the background, because I don't think people realize, they just see the ATP 250 or ATP. I mean, mostly Grand Slam, and it looks very glamorous, and it is pretty glamorous if you're a
Yeah.
player. But then this stuff is more interesting from a story point of view. Like this is something people can relate to. They can almost laugh about it. Like if you're staying in a shit room and then you have to wake up. And you have had guys, talk to guys that are ex-pros, or even had them on the podcast where people tell crazy stories, like Simon's sleeping in a bus shelter or whatever. This stuff is like, what is this? Is this professional sports?
Yeah.
It's pretty humorous. But yeah, there's an upside to it once you start climbing the rankings and things go well, right? That's
Hopefully
the
there's
thing.
an upside. Not for everyone. For most people, it's actually just a lot of pain and empty pockets. But everyone's just got a dream. So
Yeah. And you got your dream. You're motoring on your way to yours. I like it. Otherwise, you'll be the ATP media director. The way we talk
God,
today.
maybe not. I think I'd just shoot myself if I had to deal with a team of people like that. So I think I'd maybe just create some sort of new thing and try and figure it out.
Yeah, we'll see what Novak does with the PTPA or whatever. I don't know what they're doing really, but it's at least they're trying, I guess, to make it a bit more pushy. The player council stuff, like I don't know
Yeah.
what's happening behind the
I
scenes.
think that should be something kind of exciting, but it's always again it's that kind of question of are they willing to take a pay cut to help the lower level guys kind of thing, because everyone's all for it when it's like everyone gets paid more, but at the end of the day, there's the biggest reason for people to get paid more is at the highest level because they actually financially it makes sense for them to get more, whereas the ITFs it's just fair to pay them more, and it's like almost inhumane to pay them so little. So it's like kind of from a business perspective, it makes sense to pay the top players more, and the ITF doesn't really matter, and like the challengers not as much. But it's like whether those guys in the PTPA are really like, I think Novak has kind of said this, like the guys like 500 onwards, futures and challengers guys, there need to be more infrastructure there. But it's whether they just pay the guys now at the top the same and utilize that money downwards, or whether it will be like a bit more of a top heavy spread. It kind of depends what the way that they want to go down. But hopefully that they can just help the lower level players to go up and then just create more interesting stuff to get the top players paid more.
Yeah, and maybe we're gonna see more people doing your stuff, like trying to do like going to ATP point journey. I think there are already a few out there, but maybe there people be like, I have to try this. And I think also there's a thing with YouTube. You mentioned it, I think earlier in the conversation, that people think it's very easy. You just place your camera and then you have a video, and like they're like, oh, but you just take the racket and then you film. And I'm like, do you know how much work goes into actually doing the video? It is quite of a pain in the butt, and I'm not even good at it.
It's always that kind of thing in my head. Like I always think maybe some people will copy me, and then in like a kind of weird way, I think to myself, I don't think that they will push through the effort, because I know how much sacrifice it's been for me, and I've had help from my dad, thankfully, alongside his other job, which has been really helpful, and obviously my brother who's helped a little bit. I've been in a fortunate enough position to be able to get some help from other people at some points throughout the journey as well. So, and obviously myself, I'm just willing to work really hard, and I'm happy to say that I don't have a massive friend groups outside of what I'm doing, especially when I'm traveling. It's quite lonely, to be honest, because the guys at the tournaments, but when you're constantly moving, I don't really know that many guys, and I'm not going to be going out and partying and making new friends, and I'm going to be working in my hotel room until 10 o'clock and then go to bed. It's so boring, but I know kind of sacrificing the time now will allow it to grow and to show more people, and hopefully to, I guess, a little bit selfishly to help me, have some sort of career path in my life. I think it's almost weird, like for a lot of the YouTube guys, kind of saying like, oh, you're only doing it for the money, and you're only doing it. And like, I kind of, my initial response is like, well, why? Yeah, that's one part of it. I have to somehow make some money from something. I'm not just going to do this out of the goodness of my heart. As much as I love YouTube, as much as I love showing you guys, it has to be a viable career path, and everyone aspires to make as much money as possible. It's not like, okay, I've made enough to cover my tennis expenses, I'm going to stop now. I want to grow into something, maybe build a bigger business out of it, help be able to give back to some of the tennis community. I have a dream. I'd love to have my own tennis academy at some point, like something like that, like something really cool, and that requires capital, and that requires a good business. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't really see it as is a business until it's big enough where they can't ignore it. And I think that every YouTuber that you look at, influencer, starts off the same, builds their stuff, and eventually goes into big business. You look at KSI, you look at Logan Paul, you look at Emma Chamberlain, you look at all of these big YouTubers. They now own multi-million dollar, if not billion-dollar brands. And I think that that's kind of the goal of everyone is to grow and build that way. So that's one of the goals as well as obviously the tennis. But for me, the tennis right now, I feel more passionate about. I just know that the other thing's gonna just keep turning away and keep growing, keep building, and I'm obviously quite young, so I haven't had that many. Well, I have never worked a job other than this. So my dad puts me in reality sometimes and says, it's not normal kind of what you're doing in a usual sense. So helping to kind of control some of the things, like with having people help me and stuff. Just I think it's quite important as well.
One thing I didn't ask you actually, which is kind of interesting, is like how do you deal with comments? Like, I mean, you have so much love, but you also probably have some hate. I haven't checked down in the like deep depths of hell of the YouTube comments on your channel, but I mean, mostly love, but then some shit as well. Like, do you even bother? It's like post and ghost, or how connected are you in terms of your community?
I mean, I think our engagement's like pretty good in terms of like good comments. Like when I got my first point, there was a lot of like positive stuff. I didn't actually read one negative like comment, which is good. And I mean, there's always going to be. They call themselves realists. Like it's just such a crap word. Like you lose a first round qualies match. Oh, I'm just being realistic. Just shut up. Like why are you even spending the time to go down and write like a negative comment saying you're never gonna do anything? And as much as people love to say that it doesn't affect them, it does. It does. If you get comments that say da da da, especially when you're posting your game and you're trying to make it like sound better than it is, and you're only putting the good points, and you get that, and it's like really demotivating in a way. So most of the time now, I just kind of only sort by like certain categories. So I sort by my channel members, I sort by a certain amount of subscribers, I sort by questions because they're not usually bad. So it just kind of cuts out the stuff that I don't really need to reply to anyway. Obviously appreciate everyone that leaves a comment as long as it's reasonably constructive. I know constructive comments are fine. Like I don't mind them. It's just the people that are straight up ignorant or hate or stuff like that. And at the end of the day, I actually find it quite funny. Because a lot of these players, like, I had this video idea, which is just such a salty video idea, but I think I just think it would do quite well. Is like you get like a comment that's from someone like that actually has some sort of account, like can't just be some bot, and then you basically say to them, like, if they've critiqued your tennis, like those armchair tennis coaches or those armchair tennis people, and I'd love to just call them out and say, look, I will play you on camera, no cuts, one set of tennis. Let's see what happens. And obviously, it's just petty, and people would always tear at it. But I'd love to do that. That'd be so funny because you go on the court and you just embarrass them. And because what I said to my dad and what my dad says to me, we kind of have this agreement: is no person that either understands how hard you work, understands the level of tennis, or understands the dedication will ever leave a negative comment on a video. You're not going to see any tennis player higher ranked than you leaving a negative comment, unless they're like a really salty person about the business. And I have had a few people that, like other tennis players actually, that are really salty about what I do because they feel like, I'm a better tennis player, or I do. There's one guy that does YouTube videos. I'm not going to name names, but he's just really salty that I do such a good job of what I do and I get views and he doesn't, or whatever. So it's not someone a lot of people would know. So it's not like any of the big guys, but
Is it Tennis Nerd 2 channel?
Definitely not. But a lot.
I have a second name. I just go and post shit on people's channels.
Yeah, but it's just I find those comments funny, and at the end of the day, you just have to ignore it and plow on with what you're doing, because a lot of people in a lot of areas of life, especially on YouTube, do something new. It gets negative press to begin with. People don't like it. They do it for a while. People actually think, oh, this is all right. And after 2 years of doing it, they're like, wow, I actually really enjoy this. I'm a fan of this. And that's that kind of age-old saying of haters turning into fans in a way, because it's like, to leave a comment on my videos, you must have watched all of them. So you clearly can't hate me that much. Like, if I hate someone, I'm not going to watch their videos. If I find someone dead boring or I don't think they're going to amount to anything, I'm clicking off. I don't care. But clearly you're watching the full video. You're talking about this specific point. Why I'm not going to do it? Yeah, well, you clearly have some sort of attachment there, and you're going to keep watching. So as long as they keep providing me with the views, I don't care. That's where you go.
No, and engagement is good. Like, so if you have comments, I mean, also shit comments are shit comments, and you should filter them out. I don't think it's good to see too much. But but it's also like it's good for the YouTube algorithm. Like there's some channels like I mean I used to be a chess player, right? So Gotham Chess, for example, he used
Yeah,
to pin the most hateful comments, so the pin of
that's
shame.
good.
He used to always pin that, so people would defend him, and he would create huge engagement. So I think it's a pretty smart
Yeah.
way to kind of trick the algorithm a little bit, you
Yeah,
know?
I love
Yeah.
those guys in chess YouTube as well. It's like there's so many avenues within YouTube, and I think it's so good that it's such like a broad place, and you can take little bits from everyone's kind of content in a way, and just kind of keep it for yourself and use that in your own content and stuff. So yeah, I think that's that pin of shame is quite good.
Do you get any like fans coming up to you and like starstruck and like, hey, I want an autograph? That happens from
I
time
mean,
to time, right?
it happens more than I kind of say. I think it's a lot of like I think just because of my age and the fact that within the tennis, it's kind of a weird dynamic. Like within the tennis community, I'm quite well known from what like a lot of the people, um, and as a player, I guess. And so like here at Moratoglu, it's like I can't. This sounds bad, but I really don't love walking into a room with like 50 kids because I know there's going to be like more first of all everyone's going to look at me and know who I am, and they're going to start talking to each other, and then there's going to be people like, so today for example, just training like maybe 10, 15 pictures with people and say conversations and stuff, and I enjoy it. I appreciate everyone that kind of comes up, but it's just leads to some awkward like, how do I manage this conversation when there's people walking towards me? I know they're going to kind of talk to me and stuff, but I've got a training session, or I don't know, I'm not in the mood to talk to some. There's just like this whole new world that I haven't experienced massively yet. That is obviously a positive thing, positive problems to have, but sometimes it can just be a little bit kind of like awkward. When the worst is when someone wants to take a picture with you, and you can see them like 2 or 3 times plucking up the courage to come over, and then they back out and they go away, and then you can't really just look at them and like call them out and say, "Hey, do you want a picture?" Because then it's just embarrassing for them. So you kind of just have to pretend like you don't notice them, and then like go walk in their direction and be like, "Oh, da, da." So that happens a lot with the younger guys, which I find quite funny. But yeah, I mean, once one person's kind of taking a picture, then everyone's like, "Oh, okay, now it's okay because it's not embarrassing anymore," kind of thing. But yeah, a lot of the parents as well, kind of with the pictures, helping their kids. That's happened 2, 3 times today.
It shows the power of YouTube as well because you're probably more famous than many ATP 100 pros, right? That don't get anything like that, or maybe gets like one super fan who comes up. I know you. Yeah, you have a great forehand. I get that sometimes. Like, but I usually get people who stare at you like, "Oh, I have a racket question." But
Can you give me some free advice? I'm not going to pay you, but I'd love an
yeah.
in-depth review of everything. That's what Karu was saying. Like people just coming up to him and asking for advice as if like you wouldn't go up to some random tennis coach and say, "Can you just give me loads of tips on my game for free?" You'd pay them to do it. So it's like, I guess with yourself and Karu and like coach more like actual stuff which you charge money usually for. It's like, asking for the tips and tricks is okay to a certain extent, but as soon as it goes into a longer conversation, you're like, okay, like this is, I know you're a fan and I know that, I want to help, but at some point it's like, I've got to go, or, you just pay me and I'll tell you everything. That's so tough.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because people obviously don't want to pay generally. I mean, some are really nice and obviously very supportive, but it's that thing to get the weirdest people are usually the ones that you get to really bother. Like you're like, oh shit, I have to find a way to get out of this situation
Yeah,
now.
but at the end of the day, like if you look at it from the outside, you could probably just say like bluntly, because you don't have any personal attachment to that person, but you just feel like this obligation to kind of help them and give them advice, and especially like with Instagram DMs, like I just try and help, like message the people that I can, but so many people are asking like these specific questions, and it leads into a conversation then, and I just don't. I just don't have the time to be able to do that, and I think it'd be much better to just like organize all of those people into a group of people that make sense under some sort of membership or some sort of thing, and then you can actually spend the time to really help these people rather than doing it half-assed. And so I kind of, if I get someone that leaves like a DM or a comment, I kind of, if I'm replying to them, I'm willing to commit to doing a few back and forths. That's the way I think about it. And so that isn't that many people. It's maybe, I have some people leaving voice notes, and I sometimes listen to them. It's like some kid, and I'm like, okay, that's quite nice. I'll send a voice note back, or I'll message them back, and then it's a few conversations. I think that's important to have that, communication, because if I message like a big YouTuber, I'd really appreciate them coming back to me, but just so long as it's not affecting actually like my time and pushing myself out and saying, okay, well, I spent an hour now just replying to people. That hasn't helped me in any way, but now they've all written comments back, and then you feel bad for not replying to them. That's the worst. So yeah.
Yeah, there are some pros that manage this. Like I've seen Roger in action live a few times, and he just manages people so well. He's just like a master at that. Like it's as good as his volleys almost. It's he's just like navigating and not being rude, but knowing when to kind of now it's time to move on and stuff. Like it's very impressive. But then you like if you're around these tournaments, they're going to be fans. So you in your case, you're going to be growing your channel. You're going to have to get used to people maybe coming up, interrupting a dinner. I was out with Tsitsipas family like in Stuttgart, and people came up and just like while Steph was putting pasta in his face, and just like, hey, can we take a picture? He's like, can I finish my bite? Just and then we do it after dinner, and they waited and they were really polite, so it was nice, but it's just like one of those that you probably will have to learn how to manage, but which you already have. But it's one I'm impressed by people who can do that on a high level and do it really elegantly, because it's not that easy. Because if you feel a little bit like people are on you all the time. Never break a racket, by the way. No, I've done it, so don't feel any shame.
Not during a match.
Even on my
during
level.
a match or a session. Sometimes what you once or twice, like the racket itself is like chipped just from like scraping it on the floor or running. And then at the end, like I had 2 matches like where I was like really low. Like end of last year, I lost like 10 matches in a row. I was completely done. I was like the last day there. This racket, it was chipped. It was broken anyway. So I just go out, absolutely just destroy this racket. Like you couldn't even hold the frame anymore. The grip's like separated. I just leave it in the bin there. Take a picture. This is the So like once I really like got angry, but wasn't like a fresh bat, because like I only get a certain amount, and I don't see the need to let it out like that. I'm more of a person to just shout at myself. I just create noise when I'm angry. I don't really break. I don't break stuff. I'm kind of a too like respectful and kind of calm at heart to actually like you go crazy with a racket. But sometimes everyone gets heated. So in the future, I'm gonna try and keep it controlled if there's some big moments. But yeah, just stick to maybe just telling me to be quiet.
I think it's an important release, though. I realized that sometimes if you bottle up too much and you try to be Bjorn Borg or Federer, I sometimes struggle. I need to scream, or I don't break. I broke racket one practice, which was like 45 degrees, and I lost my head as 10 years ago. But then I haven't broken anything. But sometimes I feel like I want to go to the bag and break every single racket I have in the bag, which is usually 8 different rackets, So it would be
getting
in all new
8
models.
different brands asking for new ones, like. But
exactly.
I think it's difficult, because unless you have really good control of your emotions, if you don't let it out, you're gonna kill yourself from within, and then it becomes everything suffers, and you end up just being really. It doesn't work. Like sometimes you just have to let it out, and the only way that you can play effective tennis, in my mind, if you're not someone that can control it really well, is by not caring about the result. That's the only way that I've sometimes found, like if I'm in a really bad mood, like a really terrible session, sometimes just saying to myself, like, who cares? It's a practice, doesn't matter. If I lose 6-love, doesn't matter. Hit a trick shot, doesn't matter. Hit an underarm serve, doesn't matter. And then sometimes I start playing really good, or I just start or I just keep playing badly, but it's not affecting me anymore, because I've just made that conscious effort. Don't let it affect you. Because the worst is when you're like really trying to change yourself, but if you're playing bad and you're not actually changing what you're doing on the court, you're just changing what you're thinking, it's not actually going to have an output on your level of tennis, which is what is causing the mental problem. So that's then you got to just either let it out and reset, or you've got to just find a way to change actually like tactically really differently, like what you're doing, like only slice, really try and give yourself something to distract from. I've done that in a match. I played a match a while ago. I was losing 6-love, 3-1, And I said to myself, forehand and backhand, you're only going to slice. And it got on my opponent's head so much, I won the match. I didn't hit a single top spin shot the whole match, slicing everything. This was when I was like, I'm 15 years old. And my opponent lost it so big time, because he was like, he's at the level where they don't really have that much power to hit through. So they're just like getting so annoyed. And I was beginning to like really enjoy slicing, and then it just distracts you so much. So finding some things like that can really help. Especially kind of when you're not playing like kind of professional tennis, when the other guy on the other side of the net can actually be affected massively by kind of what you're doing. Moon balls is a great example in junior tennis. As annoying as it is, and as detrimental to your development as it is if you do it regularly, in a match, if you do one game of moon balls, the other guy's like crying, breaking his racket. Like, I've seen that all before. Like, oh, Dad, he's only hitting moon balls. It's not fair. Like, he's not a proper player. And then you feeling like, oh, what a baby on the other side. I'm winning this match now. And then you start regaining your momentum. So, yeah, that's kind of what I think about that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Very good attitude, I think, to change things, change a shirt, change a cap, change the way you play a little bit, just change something. So you have a new mindset, With line calling, like many matches, you call your own lines, I guess, right?
Yeah,
On many
in
matches you
ITF
play.
qualifying and British events, yeah. Other than main tour.
Yeah, and do you get it? Like, is there a lot of like discussions about line calls, or is it pretty like fair? I mean, you have a camera there, so it's a big win.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, I've got a camera. But yeah, usually it's not too bad. I mean, there are always going to be some dodgy calls, but most of I'd say 70% of the time, it's just a close call. Like, in the moment, you just call it, and it's like, okay, maybe it was in, maybe it was out, but if it's this close, nobody knows. Actually, like, the pros make mistakes, even like people whose job it is to stand there and watch the line make mistakes. So, how are you supposed to know? So, that's the one thing. And then maybe I find it harder line call wise to play against with an umpire than without, because the umpires make worse calls than the other guy on the other side of the net. Because you can't, like, I've had match point against two guys ranked 300 in doubles, 9-7 to them in the match tiebreak. I'm returning. The guys hit a serve this far out, at least half a meter, not even close. The guy at the net is like kind of re-preparing for the second serve. My partner's like, and I just bunt it back. Umpire said nothing. So then I'm like, oh my God. I look at the umpire as the ball's in the air, and he's like watching to see where it goes. And I'm like, oh my God, it's actually a live point. And then we lose the point and we lose the match. And I was fuming. And it's like, it's just, especially at these lower levels as well, you have to remember almost that there is actually like corruption at that level as well. That's something as well.
Of course.
Corruption, people paying, match fixing, that happens. As much as we don't like to admit it, it happens. Some players are match fixing. People always getting banned. That's only when you find out that it was happening. But match fixing is happening. Umpires, I've heard of umpires changing the scores so that people can cash in bets and then undoing it. Or if you have to get to a certain score in the game, go 40-15 up, and then suddenly it goes, the other person wins the game, so they just quickly add in 5 points. And so it's just crazy. I don't know whether this is related, but on ITF live scores, I've seen one guy wins the set. I look 10 minutes later, it's still the first set. So it's like, well, how has that happened? So yeah, stuff like that is always kind of prevalent as well with the umpires. So you never know whether they're, I don't know, secretly getting paid to make dodgy calls or make sure that the first serve doesn't go in. You never know. I don't think it happens regularly, but it definitely happens. And it's unfortunate, but at the lowest level, everyone's trying to get some sort of money because they're not getting paid at all by umpires. The umpiring, you get paid literally nothing, in the UK at least.
Yeah, I think the money problem shows up there as well, because there was a big news story now about like a match fixing ring, right? Someone arranging a match fixing ring. I worked in like online gambling for like 8 years, right? So for a big company, and everything about this topic from that, and it's like I'm not really a gambler myself. I'm not really into it, and I really think it hurts tennis in a way. So in one part of me, I would say like it's better to just remove the possibility, but then on the other hand, you lose a lot of sponsors, because I don't like when players get hate and stuff like that. But obviously, since the money is so bad, everybody's so keen on finding other ways of making money. So if the money was better, maybe you at least cut out some of it, because people are actually getting paid now. But then it's like, okay, I have no money, so what can I do?
Yeah, I mean,
Just
if there's some
try to.
players, if you think of it, like I guess you if it's big enough, you'll get a fine for doing it. But if you don't get caught, for some of these guys, it's like, I'm not going to make any money in my tennis career. If I can make maybe 10, 50,000 or something, maybe in over 3 years, then that's like a job kind of thing. And then you just retire from tennis because you're never going to make it kind of anyway. And then so it's
Yeah.
just that, it just needs to be kind of paid more money. And yeah, it's some players have dodgy results. I see it all the time. Like, and it makes you question whether that's real or whether that's, especially the ITF level, because there are some very dodgy score lines and some people that have ATP points where the guy's like 400 in the world playing an unranked guy and loses 6-1, 6-love, maybe injury, and then people, there's always these things. And I guess, when there is an investigation into it and it's, maybe if you haven't done anything wrong, you've just had a bad result or you were injured, or, sometimes that can be difficult. Like Dan Evans had a case where some of his people within a mile of his house put on like a load of money on his games, so probably his friends, and he ended up losing the match because he had like some injury or something. And then there was a massive investigation. They accused him of match fixing, and then he spent like thousands in lawyers to be able to basically prove that it wasn't the case, basically. But I guess some people don't have the luxury of being able to do that, because the whole reason they've done it is because they don't have a lot of money in the first place. But yeah, it's something that needs to just try and be policed a little bit better in the sport, because nobody wants that. Nobody wants match fixing to be a thing, whether it's right, yeah.
Yeah, I think all sports struggle with some part of cheating. Like chess, we have this thing with people using, like if they're playing online chess tournaments, you can use like a computer on the side, or like you have another person
Yeah.
involved, or there's ways you can get around it. And I think that's in most other sports you can have, like, and also in tennis, physical enhancement
Sure.
drugs, stuff that are illegal. There's a lot of discussion about that. We had Halep going through some painful stuff. I don't know what's true or not, but it's a messy thing, professional sports. It's just something you have to navigate and hope that the leading bureaucracies are good at, whether it's ITU in tennis or whatnot.
Yeah,
Right?
100% agree.
All right, man. Well, I have taken a lot of your time. This has been great. Your channel is amazing. Your work ethic is equally amazing. You're really an inspiration for young people out there, I think, and people in general, but especially with your young age, and for tennis as well. So you're just gonna keep on moving. You have good influences at home. I hear that. So just keep on pushing, getting more points, getting more followers, and keep doing
Thanks,
it.
Jonas. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to come on, have a chat with you, and I'm sure at some point we'll be able to meet up. I mean, there were a few times where we were nearly at the same like event or something through some brand, but yeah, I'm sure at some point we'll meet up. You can give me some tips on my racket specs, even though I'm probably not going to change anything because I won't change anything for ages. But yeah, we can create some content or something. But yeah, it was great to have a chat to you, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of this, and also just keeping up to date with the videos on the channel. Keep seeing you playing as well. That was exciting. Watching you play some tournaments. Always enjoying.
Not exciting at all. It's
I
very
was enjoying
unexciting.
watching those kind of vlogs because I just enjoy watching other guys at tournaments. So looking forward to, like you said, maybe playing some more of those events. So I wish you the best of luck in those, and then yeah, looking forward to maybe meeting up with you in person at some point.
We should. Yeah. I'm trying to highlight the mental pain of playing tennis. It's what I do. it's rough, but I think people can relate.
Everyone
Like
feels
that's
it,
the good thing
exactly.
with all levels of tennis. Everybody knows how it is to hit a double fault on a set point. It's
Oh, it's so relatable. Even match point, like exactly. That happened to me so many times.